this evening? That is correct. So I'll be running the meeting until Michelle Lewis is running a little late, so I'll be running the meeting until Michelle can get here. For roll call, everyone is here. I'd like to welcome Mark Eckberg and Alice Todd as our new board members. Congratulations, and congratulations to Jill on another term. Looking forward to working with you. We're gonna skip the board chair and the vice chair right now until Michelle can come here, be here for us to have the full conversation. So I'm gonna go right into the agenda until she is able to join us for that agenda item. Let's see. Multitasking. So we have the review and approval of the February 7th public meeting minutes. Any amendments?
I just had one under the administrative report, discussion around moving the deliberative from the library to a place, instead of the gymnasium. I thought we had talked about the cafeteria, that's what the, moving it to the cafeteria at the library.
Yeah, I had the same idea.
So it should be the
Cafeteria.
cafeteria.
Be a little tight in here for everyone.
Yeah.
Any other amendments?
I'll make a motion to approve the February 7th public meeting minutes as amended.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 2 abstentions?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Then we have the review and approval of the February 8th deliberative session public meeting minutes. Have any amendments?
I have a clarifying question. So on line 88, said Tracy Leclerc had asked about the funds, and I believe Michelle had responded to her that historically the board has put funds that were done in that type of manner to what they were for.
She did later on. This was when Tracy specifically got up and said she had a question for me, and wasn't it true that they were just adding it to the bottom line? But Michelle did clarify later that yes, the board typically puts the money where the voters have asked for it to go.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, because like 5 people have asked me if we're gonna do. So, I don't know if we can add something in, or.
I know it's in.
I mean, if it was discussed, and certainly a question people have, we should probably make sure some,
It's in.
Is it? Because I was looking for it.
no, we should put it.
No, Chris said it is.
Again, I did it off tape, but I really.
It was the operating budget, which would have been Article 5. I think it's easy enough to add because
It
it was
is,
discussed.
but I know what you're talking about.
So Grady will add that in there?
Yeah, because Michelle says something like, I know historically,
Mhm.
the board has blah, 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 yeah, so I know what you're talking about. Thank you.
Any other amendments?
Make a motion to approve the February 8th deliberative session public meeting minutes with that addition, one addition.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
2 abstentions? Great, thank you. Our date and location of the next meeting is April 11th at Canterbury Elementary School. Our next agenda item is public communication correspondence. If there's anyone in the public that would like to share some comments.
I can just say thanks for all you do. especially what's especially what's happening in Nashville and then in Canterbury today and Wintersquam today. So, thanks for all you do. That's all.
Agreed.
Any other comments from the public?
Just was a big point of, discussion at the, Meet the Candidate Nights was communication. And I can relate to that and, would like that to definitely be worked upon. I just feel like I hear very little from teachers about my girls. And, having progress reports just come out and then, subsequently we'll have report cards. I used to have to sign those to prove that I looked at them. Like, nobody even asks anymore if your parents seeing them. And on all the comments, very rarely do I see an individual comment about how my child's doing. It's kind of like, this is what we're working on, and not really anything about how the kids are doing. And I'd like to know more or have an opportunity to come in and talk to teachers more about where the kids are at.
Just out of curiosity, what grade?
10th and 7th.
If you don't mind, for the minutes, can you state your name and what
Amanda
town?
Liakis.
And what town?
Belmont.
Belmont.
Can you spell your last name?
Liakas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none. One of my favorite parts of the agenda is student representatives, club presentation. I think we have some students here this evening. Mr. Finch, some introductions.
Well, I think they'll be able to introduce themselves. I'm just gonna have to kind of part the seas here a little bit. Mr. Hills is gonna talk to you later about our absolute need to have something mounted in here for presentations and such, but. Okay, sorry. Please,
So I guess are you gonna confirm?
I'm happy to let you do that.
Oh, no, I don't know how to do it. Can I just click?
Just hit that.
Okay. I have to click on the link at some point.
I can do it.
Okay. Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Kate McDonald. I live in Canterbury and I'm a junior this year. For a lot of you, this is the 4th time that Brass is presenting to you. Some of you are new to the school board. So me and Emily are here to just give you an update on sort of where Brass is at right now, and also because the school board meeting is at the high school this week, to just give you a brief update on what's happening around the high school. So first we'd like to show you our new mascot that we're very excited about. These are the images. This is the first sort of main one that we have adopted. It was professionally adapted from the image that we showed you that the student body had voted on. So that's the main one that we're adopting, and then the next slide has 2 other there's the profile and then the head-on picture, which we have available for anyone that wants to use them. These images have been made available to our sports teams and our clubs, and anyone who's interested in using them. And we're going to talk about in a minute how we're starting the process of being able to spread the pictures around our school. First of which is the apparel store that we have launched, that we'd like to give you a preview of. I think it's open until the 9th,
Yep.
April 9th. So I think it's the same company that we used to make the image, and so they helped us to set up a store, which all of these things are available for purchase. The proceeds of this, half goes to Brass to help us in the future, and then the other half goes to the transition department to help refund them for some of the apparel that they were going to sell, but it has the old mascot on it. So we asked them in hopes of not having confusion, that if they would not sell the stuff with the old mascot, but we understand that we don't want them to be losing any money, so we're going to be splitting our profits with them to help make up for that. And
And then the other piece that we've started right now about launching the mascot is reaching out to a number of media sources to sort of announce that we have a new mascot to the greater community. We do have an article out from the Laconia Daily Sun right now that you can look at if you haven't seen it. So a number of us from Brass were able to do an interview, talk to a reporter, and get that image out there. We also talked to reporters from the Concord Monitor and the Winnisquam Echo on Monday this week, and then last week on Thursday. So those articles will hopefully be coming out in the near future. And we'd also just like to say thank you very much for supporting us throughout this process. It's been a long one, and we really appreciate you guys helping us through this and passing the mascot.
Hello, it's me again. For those of you who have not seen me, congratulations on your, what's your name? Oh, I was gonna get there. But my name's Emily, E-M-I-L-I-E. Congratulations on your new positions. My name is Emily. I am a junior at Belmont High School, and I am also a part of Brass. I am here to talk about things that are currently happening within our high school that we're pretty excited about, as well as new projects that Brass is looking to take on. One of the projects that Brass is hoping to take on is a form of student recognition. Right now, we don't have a current honor roll implanted in the high school, but we are hoping to develop an honor roll or just some kind of student recognition to acknowledge students that are working hard, they're getting their grades up, and they're just trying 110% at school. Because right now we don't have that. We are also trying to improve school spirit. Our new mascot is a really good way of implementing that, and there was definitely great excitement within the school when that got passed. So again, just thank you for your guys' support. It would not have been possible without you. Some possible ways that we are looking to do that is we are hoping to get some new murals with the fox image up. We have worked with Mr. Silly, who is our art teacher, as well as his art program. He has an amazing art program here at the high school, and you can tell that he works a lot about it, and the kids really like it, and they all seem really excited about these possible new projects. We also want to utilize our mascot around the school. Brass they have contacted 2 different vinyl companies. We actually spoke with one of them last week. We are hoping to get the front doors to the gym with the fox mascot on it, as well as some of the academic wings, and just as many places that we can have it as possible. Sports is an exciting thing right now. Our hockey team just won the D3 state championship. It was extremely exciting. As a student who was actually at the game, I can say that the players were pumped, the students there were pumped, everyone was super excited. It was really exciting to be part of a high school state championship in our time here. Will Riley, who is a senior at the high school, competed in the junior nationals in Alaska. So he was #1 in New England, he was #1 in New Hampshire, and he went all the way to Alaska. And I think he placed around 20th nationally. I think that's what he said, so that is super exciting for him. We also have sports for the spring starting. Student council, Winter Carnival was a huge success. I think that the students had a lot of fun with that. We were able to enjoy ourselves, and it was just really nice to have the whole school all together after 2 years of not being able to do that. We have spring fling upcoming. I personally am not a part of student council, but they are working really hard to plan it. They're trying to put together some of the activities that were canceled during Winter Carnival that we weren't able to do, so that we can still implement that, and I definitely think that that will be fun. Similar to Will, our robotics team recently came back from Iowa. They came back this Sunday. They went to nationals with their robot, which was called 603A. The students that went were Nick Pucci, Zach Capra, Alex Vanson, and Evan Christensen. They worked super hard on their robot with Mr. DeHaze, who runs a great program, and they ranked pretty well, as well as 603B, and they went and they competed in Texas, and that is... They're going to Texas, guys. That is Odin Provost, Ethan Rivera, and Brady Filto. So that is exciting.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Yes.
One question and one comment. The question is, have you heard much feedback since the media campaign with the mascot?
Honestly, I know that I personally have seen personal feedback. People have seen the newspaper and they've come up to me. I personally haven't really received much negative. Maybe Kate could
No,
add,
it's
but
been mostly positive.
everything I've seen has been positive.
And then one comment, which would be, I don't know how often we paint the gym floor. I know we have to refinish it every year or two or whatever. But I think that might be a good location for a mascot at some point down the road too.
Any other questions?
What is, as a newbie, what does GRASS stand for?
Belmont Representatives Advocating for Student Success. And just so that you know, it is currently elected officials or previous elected officials from all 4 grades. So I don't remember how many members we have, but
I think we have around like 14,
something like that.
around 14. What?
But it's not.
Well, also
previous
if you were elected in the past, but then you lost, you're still in grass.
And some people aren't in it, they're just invited. Oh, that's
There you go.
Randy, did you have a question?
I did, but it wasn't for you guys, but I always love when you guys come and talk, so thank you very much. Kate, rocking that leather jacket. Alright. How come there is no honor roll in the high school?
It's something that changed, I wanna say 4 or 5 years ago. So, good question, bring it back up for discussion.
I can
Sure.
answer that a little bit.
Mr. Finch, go ahead.
So that kind of went away with the previous administration, and with the adoption of the 4-point scale. At the graduation ceremony, there are diplomas that, magna cum laude, the Latin honor system is utilized, but for whatever reason, it was decided that that wouldn't continue for the, underclassmen. It was only recognized at graduation. But again, this group, the faculty council, as a faculty and staff as a whole, have recognized that we want to bring something like that back. And I think a good portion of the discussion has been refreshingly consistent between the student leadership groups and the faculty leadership groups and the faculty as a whole, that no group wants to just recognize academic excellence. They want to find ways to recognize different efforts and achievements that students are making. So we have habits of work scores that basically are a measure of a student taking ownership of his or her own learning. That can be something that can be incorporated into recognition. So there's a lot of conversations going on right now about how that's going to come about. But recognition for all 4 years in various classes, it's a pretty big topic of conversation right now.
Board members have any other questions?
With that, does that also kind of go a little bit with the Empower and the grading system? Yeah, the 4 scale, does that make it a little harder and,
Does what make it a little better?
having an honor roll?
No, I mean, once you establish what your criteria is, as long as you have an outcome from whatever your grading system is, you can measure it against the criteria. So, it depends. There hasn't been a specific plan in terms of how students are recognized or what students are recognized. Again, that's the conversation right now. But the outcome would have to match the criteria that's established.
And I think that was actually a topic that had come up at the, Meet the Candidates night too, is their current grading system and is it working and is it overall, are people happy with it? And I guess I would like more discussion on that.
I can tell
Thank
you,
you.
that's a topic that we're discussing in Learning Hub a little bit right now, which I'm a part of. Learning Hub is not continuing next year, so I don't know where the conversation will go after that, but I can tell you that that's a topic I brought up at the last meeting that was discussed.
Great, thank you. Michelle, welcome. That's okay.
My name is Canterbury.
I think the weather was nice.
I guess, I don't really realize when you get to the school that you're in the wrong place, so I apologize.
So we did skip the elect the board chair and vice chair. We're gonna come back to that at this point. So at this point, I would ask for a nomination for the school board chair. If we have anyone that would like to nominate an individual board member for the chair, state that at this point. Second by Randy for discussion.
Sure. I don't mind. If you'll have me again, I always say it's you know what you're getting. Well, actually, Alice and Mark may not know what they're getting, but.
You do a wonderful job.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Okay, I have a motion and a second for Michelle Lewis as the chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Michelle,
Thanks.
school board chair.
Oh, shucks, congratulations.
I know, right?
I think so. So at this point, I'll turn the meeting over to you for the vice chair.
Okay, I can entertain a motion for a vice chair.
Make a motion to nominate Sean.
Second. I was thinking the same thing. Any discussion? Sean, okay, all those in favor of Sean as vice chair, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, motion carries. Alright, so we already did the,
We are down to reports at this point.
so I was early to the April 11th meeting at Canterbury Elementary. That's the way I'm gonna frame that. Just for the record, Greta, can you make sure
Yeah.
I was early? Thanks. Okay. Alright, reports. There were principals' reports in your packets. Any questions for the principals? I know they're not here. Actually, I think Matt is behind. There he is.
That is-
He moved to the back of the
I know,
room,
I'm
he's
like,
hiding.
wait a minute.
Well, I made everybody
So if
move
we-
for the presentation, I feel like I can.
Any questions?
So the only question I had was actually on the high school one, but the youth risk behavior survey, when do we get those results back typically?
I think it usually takes a month and a half to 2 months. Melissa Allen, our student assistance program coordinator, is kind of the go-to person when it comes to accessing those and then disseminating them. Those results do a lot toward her actually structuring her position and, you know, what types of groups and what types of support she brings in for presentations and things like that. So I can get an exact date if she has one, but
I know it's
So,
on our
I
agenda for May.
Yeah, so I can piggyback on what Mr. Finch was saying. Actually, Melissa Allen reached out to me. She got a notification that those results are available at this point. However, the state has not reached out to me. Usually the results come to the superintendent and then I pass them on to Melissa. She puts together a report for the board. So I think it'll be coming up in the near future.
I had a question for the high school as well, and you may not be able to answer it, so it might be later. We had talked as a board previously about taking a look at how many students by grade level were in credit recovery, and then how many, I guess more data. I mean, I could tell you what I was thinking, but how many were under the 2, so they weren't even eligible, and just so we have a better sense of where students are at.
I can pull all that together and put it in my next report if you want.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Do you want just, you know, final grades of semester 1 specific?
Well, yeah, because we wouldn't have semester 2.
Right.
Right,
Other than progress reports, but semester grades probably.
yeah,
a little
semester,
higher.
because progress reports are
But-
a point in time.
But there are other cutoffs during the academic year, like, I don't know, like for sports, there's different cutoffs, I thought.
There are, like we just had one.
So I guess I would be interested not just in the semester grades, but also on progress reports maybe, but where we stand, like a snapshot at that time as well.
Right, and I'd be curious how many kids had to go into credit recovery to get to the 2? Like, how many kids did you have that needed that extra boost just
Well,
to
we
qualify?
did, so a student had to have a floor of a 2 in order to qualify, so they had to start at least a 2 and go to 2.5. But again, I can pull that that together and put it over both of them.
Great.
So if students were at a 1, they did not qualify for recovery?
Correct.
Not so, well, no, what was the previous last
Up
year?
until this past semester, it was a 1.75 was the qualifier.
Yep.
But at the beginning of the year, that was
Yep.
communicated in all the,
Correct.
course outlines and things like that, that it was moving to a 2. So anywhere from a 2.0 to 2.45 would qualify a student to do credit recovery.
Any questions for, I mean, I know the other principals aren't here, but, Michael could either answer the questions or bring information back. Okay, seeing none, board member reports, this is typically where we just go around and if there's anything you would want to share, meaning something you attended through the schools or would want to report out on, so we just, and it's once a month, right? You should know that. So, I won't start with you, Mark, because you're new. Sean?
So the students talked about the sports things and Will and the hockey. I just wanted to add that I went to the hockey game. I thought going to SNHU Arena was overkill based on the size. And they close off the top because it's a big arena. But I was pleasantly surprised by how many Belmont Guilford bands were there. Like I walked to the other side of the arena, to the Berlin side, and looked at our side, and it was completely full. And that's a pretty big arena. And I saw, school district teachers, parents, kids that aren't affiliated with hockey, and it wasn't just Guilford. There was a ton of Belmont people.
Yeah.
So Belmont, Canterbury. So I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was great for the community.
I did too.
No, I know, it's been in Mr. Finch's reports, but in addition to recognizing everything that's going on with sports, but looking at robotics and the success robotics has had, and some of our other clubs, like, different things with French, and it's just nice to see everybody's back out doing things and highlighting some of the successes and planning trips and students being recognized. It's nice to see.
I was happy to see our school resource officer. My daughter volunteered for a reading night at the elementary school, so I went, and he was one of the guest readers there, so it was nice to see him already engaging with families and students in our community.
I'm actively involved with the Sapping Club at the elementary school, collecting sap for the program. We at my house we have about a dozen trees that we're tapping, and this year we probably brought in about 175 gallons of sap for the club, which was great. So hopefully we get to see some fruits of our labor, and I guess there's been some success with the grading in the past with some awards. So hopefully that club can continue that.
I also want to recognize Eric Johnson and Marcel Pethick for their time on the board. Obviously, they're not here tonight, but if they're listening, because they might have become our adoring public at home, I'm sure that's what they're doing. We just want to say thank you for their time on the board. It's very much appreciated. All right. Anything else? Okay, dropout data. Michael.
Yes, we provide this data annually for the board to see, and we go back several years so you can see what our trends are. You see this year we're at 2.62% for our annual dropout. That represents 10 students. That's for the 21-22 school year. I do have Mr. Finch is here if there are any questions by the board as to basically the actions that we take to try and keep these students in school. It can be very challenging. Some of the students, they basically just disappear, and they're very difficult to either track down or to get any type of communication back and forth, but it's not due to lack of effort from on the school side in general. There's students that, they just haven't been attending, nor are they communicating with the school, not based on the school trying to reach out to them, but they just.
Is it
they're off.
transitory populations or just not showing up?
A combination of both. The transitory populations are hard to track down, particularly if we know they're not living there anymore. But more importantly, there is no communication with the school, and when we reach out to try and to work with these families and these students, there are no contacts, nor is there any response to our efforts.
Mr. Finch, can you remind us, or let us know, like, what is the process when a student stops showing up, or like to address the dropout numbers?
To some degree, it's individualized.
Right.
Because depending on who that person has a relationship with in the building, we try to utilize some relationships to reel them back in as best we can. It's heavily involved with the school counseling team. When a student is close or they have, like, unfortunately, at the end of every school year, it seems we have to have at least a few conversations with seniors who are not gonna quite make it. Those are not fun conversations to have. I attend each one of those, as does either school counselor, whichever the student is assigned to. We invite parents in, and it's not, hey, sorry you didn't make it, it's, hey, you're gonna be working on a different timeline, so let's figure out what your plan is. So it's never a situation where we say, you're done. It's, okay, we need 2 more credits, let's figure out how we can do that. The efforts to be flexible are very consistent, trying to figure out ways that we can get these students to work through however much left they have to do. It's really unfortunate when you have a student who is right up to the line. We had some who literally needed 1 more credit. And so we would give them a whole menu of options in terms of how they could access that final credit to accomplish graduation. And some of them just don't do it. And that's not without efforts to get the family back in the 3rd or 4th meeting and try to get the kids back in. And eventually, in some of those cases, the students have just stopped communicating, like Mr. Jersey said. So it's individualized, but there's always an effort to put a plan together. It's not a, hey, sorry, good luck. It's, hey, it's okay, this is the situation, but the most important part, let's all get on the same page so we know how we're gonna get this done. It just happens to be not part of the same timeline. But again, we can't force a student once he or she turns 18 to finish. And it's really unfortunate when a student is not close, or it doesn't matter if they're close or not close, we want them to finish, and sometimes they choose not to.
So the last data point is for the last year's school year, correct? And there was a significant increase in previous years. Do you feel as though, since, coming out of COVID, that might have been a factor for a student struggling with this? It's a big jump.
I think part of it is an impact on students' resiliency. Kids have been really tired because they've gone through a really difficult high school experience. And we should be kind of hitting the tail end of that within the next year or so in terms of students getting back into more of a traditional and more of a consistent setting. But we had students who, when we went fully remote, were fully gone. And so when you lost an entire year of credit earning opportunities, and we each had caseloads. We had communication caseloads, and so every administrator, every school counselor was reaching out to families, parents, and emails, but we couldn't go to their house, knock the door down, and drag them.
I almost did.
There's a couple that it was tempting.
I did drive by. I drove by. I did.
But that year in particular, and then we went hybrid, and there were some students who really struggled with that too. So when you had 2 years of some of these kids, 4 years of high school experience that were in this very unorthodox, to say the least, approach, a lot of kids did not gain the credits. And so they would have been on different timelines, and that would have been, again, that's fine with us. We can be on a different timeline, we can come up with unique approaches to it. But if they turned 18 and that law didn't change, you know, despite the years of COVID, and the minimum standards in terms of what a student has to get to even have the minimum standard diploma didn't change. So we had to hold them to some of the same standards, despite the fact that they had all those challenges and obstacles. So I'm 100% sure that that had an impact on kids.
I also feel that we're seeing more students that are the primary supporters of the family that are working to support their family. We're seeing that more often than we have in the past, where students at younger, young adults at younger ages are the breadwinner of the family in order to make sure there's food on the table and support the family, so they're working compared to coming to school.
Do you have the sense that we could be in this position with 10 more next year, or do you, I mean, you said we still have a year or two before we might be out of the, do we have that many kids that, I mean, looking at your data now with the kids that you currently have, do you have a significant amount that you're worried about?
I would, well, yes. I mean, you've always got more than you like who are gonna come right down to the wire. We've already had some conversations between school, like, the earlier you have the conversation about what the plan's gonna be, if you know the plan is not going to be graduating after 4 years, the earlier you do it, the better. Because that enables the school counseling department to put an appropriate, class schedule together for that kid, knowing that, okay, this student is really struggling to take 4 classes at once and be successful in any of them. So is it a situation where we have to work in an academic support block and the student's focused on 3, knowing that they have to come in for an extra semester anyway? So let's do 3 that following semester instead of trying to do 4 and then 2. We can try to kind of split it up and even it out. So there's a handful that we've already had conversations. There's also some that we're having different conversations. We've got a couple of students who are involved in the high step program now. And for some students that, like, we want them to go away with something, to have something that they've accomplished and that they can, be more successful than having absolutely nothing. So you have to be flexible sometimes in terms of how a student reaches those. And I think particularly for a small school, we give kids a lot of different routes toward graduating, but they have to decide that it's gonna happen. That's the primary message of every one of those meetings. Like, your parents can be here, your principal can be here, your school counselor can be here, but if you're not gonna do it, what are we supposed to do?
Is there any outreach for, support for those students? Obviously, it sounds like there's a ton of support here within the schools. Is there any outreach for support outside of the schools?
Yeah, we have an at-risk team that, at-risk is an umbrella that covers a lot of different, possible rationales for the student to be a, risk. Whether it's behavioral or, whether it's attendance or academic, again, it's all individualized. There's no one-size-fits-all. A student is not on track to graduate, okay, well, they just do this different plan and everything's gonna be sunshine and lollipops. You have to come up with a way that that student is going to be individually or uniquely successful. So yes, we have routes. We've got the school counseling team, student assistance program coordinator, we've got a school social worker. Try to put them in contact with whatever's gonna help.
What is the grade mix of this group, the most recent one? Is it like, do you see it primarily like, 10th, 11th grade? Are they seniors? It's
Of the dropouts?
yeah, so it says for grades 9 through 12.
It's usually more upperclassmen. You're looking at, we had, students who are, juniors, late junior year into senior year are the ones that you primarily see who fall off from that. And the law states that a student has to be 18 to drop out. So, they have to be a little bit later in their high school career in order to really even qualify to do that. When Mr. Tercey was alluding to students who fall off the map, we can't even access our juvenile probation and parole officer system because once they're 18 years old, that system doesn't even apply to them anymore. So if a student becomes habitually truant, our school resource officer, who we're thrilled to have on staff, he is awesome. We can't even access many of the resources that a student who might be 14, 15, 16 would get. We can't, work with the JPPOs to get them a tracker. It's, the older they get, the more resources get cut off because they're adults rather than juveniles.
So I just to piggyback off that, I mean, where you're asking, I mean, how, out of these students, how many of them would you say are being identified early on, say in freshman or sophomore year, that you're worried about them, you know, falling off the tracks, which then results in a potential
Smaller
dropout?
number than you might think early on. You know, you can identify them because you wanna hope that there's not a negative pattern that's gonna start and it's gonna, you know, be pervasive throughout the 4 years. But if you have a student who's not successful in freshman year, it's gonna be difficult for them to
Right.
pull it all together in the next 3. So you can start to identify those kids. And again, some of those students start having conversations about the state minimum standard or the 20 credit diploma earlier on, because again, that enables the school counseling team to say, okay, if this is your goal, if this is what we're really working toward, I'm not gonna load your sophomore, junior, senior schedule up with classes that you don't need for the 20 credit diploma. So if usually sophomore year is a little bit easier to figure it out because you know a year in, you know, out of 8 possible credits, if a kid got 0 or 1 or 2, okay, we gotta start having a different conversation here. But some of those students are even earlier than that. It depends on the rationale for why they're at risk.
Right, so I mean, so out of the, like, out of the 10, you know, would 50% of those kind of be identified on the front end in your lower years, you know, or is it mainly a junior, senior?
Every year is gonna be different.
Okay.
You know, it would be, some of the kids would be real early and you would kind of know all along that they were at risk, and some students, again, they fall off the map late and they, you know, were right there. So I don't think I could put a percentage to it.
Okay.
But
And we are fortunate to have an at-risk team at the middle school as well that starts identifying those students that might not be successful going into their freshman year, so they would be starting off on the right foot. So we have those conversations between the middle school and the high school as well.
Are the students involved in this conversation
Students and family and parents.
at that young of an age?
Do they actually sit in the meeting? Is that what your
Well,
question
no,
is?
but I'm like wondering, like, you know, if I'm in 8th grade and already people are like, you know, we're talking about like your options because we don't think you're gonna be successful, like, does my mentality then say, you're right, I'm not?
I wouldn't say that the conversations around not being successful, it's just a matter of continuing to provide them supports that they probably would have had already going through middle school, just to ensure that they will continue to have those supports going into the high school.
Additional questions? Okay, thank you. Debbie?
Couple of updates for you. I think most of you have seen the MS-22, the report of appropriations actually voted. That is a report that we have to send to the Department of Revenue Administration no later than 20 days after the annual meeting. So I prepared that. It tells the department exactly what was voted, and then we have to prorate that based on elementary, middle, and high school. So that went through PandaDoc. I know some of you have already signed that, and I thank you for that. The rest of you, if you have not had a chance to sign that, if you could do that, I would appreciate it, so I can get those reports to Revenue Administration on time.
Out of curiosity,
Yes,
the other documents we get through PandaDocs, you don't need everybody to sign it, right? I assume you need
I need a majority.
majority.
Yeah.
MS-22, do you need everybody to sign?
No, I need a majority. Yeah, so if I get down to like the last day and I'm missing 1 or 2 signatures, I can still submit it.
Okay.
I don't have a majority.
Ideally, everybody should sign it.
Right. And along with that, I'll be sending other things. They need the sample ballot. There's other documents that they need, so that will be uploaded.
I just didn't know if the requirements were different for that compared
Nope.
to the other ones.
The other thing I wanted to let you know is we got the final fiscal year 2022 audit. That has been completed. We've submitted it to the Federal Clearinghouse, and it has been uploaded to your folders. If any of you would like to read that, I'd be love to have a discussion with you about it.
So I will say, I did review it, cause I get my own audit for the nonprofit I run. So it's a good read. if you're interested. It's not that good of a read, but, it was interesting. It was interesting, so that is a fun duty you have as board chair, is to, this is me selling board chair for next year. A fun duty is to review the audit and sign off, the letters and stuff, so I actually did review it, so.
Thank you. And then finally, we're wrapping up orders for this year, so we can, get ready for the new year. And, tomorrow, we're actually working on rolling the new budget and, payroll into the new year and the new accounting software system. So we're actually wrapping up one whole year on that system, and I'll, be able to do some analysis and present some year-end estimates for the board. So, those are my updates.
Great. Any questions for Debbie?
Of course, Debbie doesn't get any.
Yeah, I know, right?
He explained everything so well.
Okay, so Steve. There's a report in your,
Hello.
hello. And, go ahead, Steve.
So the SAU building is just about complete, except for a few glitches in the heat. That should finish that project, and they're working on that now. The addition over at the elementary school, the teachers are thrilled with this space. We still have blinds to put in the classrooms, but they've been ordered, they're on their way. And they've gotta finish up the exterior, the painting on the roof line, the railings on the ramp, the landscaping, that all needs to be done, but they're hoping April vacation, if the weather holds, that they'll be able to complete that then. So everything else is winding down as far as that goes, so.
Has Buildings and Grounds been in to see the addition?
I've seen it, but we didn't do it as a
You didn't
group.
do like a walkthrough, right?
No.
I was just curious. Any questions for Steve?
He's got one more thing, he's got
Yeah.
tables.
Huh?
Can we bring that up?
Yeah,
you probably
okay.
should.
So, we put in for tables are in the budget for next year for BES. So, originally, when we started this whole process a few years ago, we asked for a price on half the tables. And then we wanted,
These are the pocket tables in the cafeteria.
the
that
ones
we're
that are on the
talking
wall.
about.
Similar to what is at Canterbury, which we're
Right.
talking about
They are the same as
a
well.
Right.
year or two after. Yes.
Right,
The ones that come down.
the
from
ones that slide up into the wall, yeah. Sorry, they just didn't know
Yeah.
which table.
And they get to a point where they're dangerous, because they get worn out, the shocks don't work well and they're heavy. And it's a safety issue to use them when they get to a certain point. Well, they're all at that point now.
Only one company.
So I got a new quote, just hot off the press like 3 weeks ago. And to do all of them at Belmont Elementary School is $150,000 instead of the 50 we have in the CIP. So
$50,000 in the CIP.
50,000 was what we had carried in the CIP from years ago. And the price to do all of them, and if we only do half this year at Belmont Elementary and do half next year, then that pushes Canterbury out another year, and their tables are really bad too. So,
So it's
I'm just-
150 grand for how many seats?
what's that?
How many seats?
That's 16 tables, there's 12, I think 12 seats at each table,
Okay.
so.
I need my calculator.
They're a 14-foot table, let's put it that way, the double table's 14 feet. And the double
I
table's
have
in
the
the
number
wall,
right
so.
here, it's $7,614.39 per unit,
Per table?
per table.
Per table.
So 7 grand divided by 16.
Does it self-clean?
I know.
And we have
That would be nice.
one vendor.
One vendor is all that's available, nobody else sells them anymore because of the safety issue with these products.
Well,
No.
what are our other options then?
There aren't any other options other than putting that pocket table back in or making the gym bigger. You know, I mean, you have to seat kids for lunch. It's a
Well,
There's
multi-
other
other
options, they're just not
options.
realistic.
Well, the difficult piece with both of our elementary schools is that they're multi-purpose rooms.
Yeah.
It's not just a
And
cafeteria.
there's no storage for the other options. Where would you put the tables when you need it to use
Mark,
it as
would
a
you
gym?
like to see that?
There's no place to store them.
That's where we have our PE classes.
No, I understand that. I'm,
So it's a sort
Put
of
an addition on the schools, the extra room. I'm joking.
yeah.
So is the safety issue just that over time they wear, they get
Correct.
negative? Or is it that, these are dangerous to children because
know,
of how
I was
they
wondering.
operate?
It's not the children, it's the staff that have to put them up and down. They aren't unsafe for the children to sit at or to eat at. They're unsafe to put in and take out of the wall for the staff that have to do that. That's where the safety issue comes
I
from.
feel like we've been patching them as well as far as new wheels and parts.
We have done all of that and they're in bad shape.
It's like we're constantly working with these things, feels like.
It's time to replace them.
So
How
one,
old are they?
one vendor in the whole,
I don't know, cause I don't have the paperwork when they were originally bought. I really can't answer that. I'm guessing 20.
I don't think they've ever been replaced, I think they were original to the gym, to the multi-purpose room.
So it lasts longer than a roof, that makes me feel better.
Just because we use them longer than the roof doesn't.
So realistically, the answer may be no, but the local business guy inside of me is wondering, is there a local fabrication, place that could take one of our tables and basically say, yeah, I can make you, make you some of these, for less than $150,000. And again, I don't know the answer to that
They'd
question.
have to re-engineer all the metal, all the shocks, everything to lift it. There's
Right,
lift
yeah,
assist on
it'd be reverse engineering.
It'd be reverse engineering,
Right.
and nobody wants the liability of putting that table on the wall and having to fall on a kid. So that's one of the reasons it's so expensive, and there's only one manufacturer left building them, because of the liability of these tables. They're not, everybody at one time bought them because they were able to reduce the footprint of
get
their
out of the way.
schools.
Yeah.
But, now they've got a lot better gas shocks, they're a lot easier to lift, they're a lot safer than they've ever been, but we aren't to that generation until we buy these.
so anyway, that was brought up in our meeting, we figured we'd share it with everybody to
Wow,
give them a heads up.
so this is just a heads up.
Yeah.
That also means, not to throw a little more, but that also means Canterbury's tables have gone up in price, as well as what we have in this, for them, the year after is gonna be more than we have, of course, in there as well.
More cheery news, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Wow,
Do you know what the approximate lifespan of them is?
I would say 20 years,
since you said we've not,
but I think we well exceeded that in Canterbury. And they still usable, but barely.
What do the kids eat on?
They eat on
they eat on.
Oh.
We put them down, they eat on them every day, it's just the issue of the up and down, and we've had one person get hurt on one of them already that fell on him. This was about a year and a half ago, I had my grounds guy down there, one fell on him, he had a back injury because it scarred his whole side up, it was a mess. So it ultimately, we want them to be safe.
Basically, it comes down to about $800 a seat.
wow.
That's tough.
And, I'm sure you've looked at other, this really is it? The one manufacturer? for
One
the whole
manufacturer is
US?
the only people left building it, nobody else built it except for one.
Anybody that's built a school in the last 10 years is not going with pocket tables, they must be putting in tables at.
I think the
middle
engineers
school.
know that if you put in pocket cables, I think now they know better, they've decided not to do that, it's not a good idea that it was when they decided to save space 20 years ago, but now they're saying we need to make it work with different tables other than those. Cause there will come a day when they don't make them anymore, you're gonna have to make a decision to go another way somehow.
And there's no storage anywhere. I don't know why I'm even asking that, but, cause it feels like the right thing to do, like there's no place to wheel tables somewhere and, no?
Not at the elementary school. Either one.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm sure we'll be coming back to the board with a proposal as to how to fund replacing those tables.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Now we have Jason, who told us cheery news the last time about the interactive displays, but now has a solution. Somebody has a solution.
Debbie has a solution.
Debbie has a solution.
So just brief history, early February meeting,
I brought to the board's attention that we've really been struggling with, projectors in the classroom, smart board combinations. They're causing a lot of frustration for the faculty, delays in instruction in the class. We've been, as part of our CIP, replacing 3 a year, or trying to get to that 3 a year. But we just can't get there. We have around 97 locations that have either a smart board projector, or a newer interactive display. So my thought was that we had to have a discussion on how we could increase the replacement cycle, so that we weren't seeing the frustration, the support tickets, things like that. In talking with Debbie, we realized that we had some ESSER two funds available, and that we could do the entire district this summer, get everybody up to speed on a new interactive display.
Hold please. Do you guys know what ESSER 2 money is at?
I do have a question about it, but we can touch on it after.
Okay, Debbie.
So ESSER two money was the money that the federal government came up with as a response to COVID. So there was 3 different pockets of money. So the first one, we basically used for PPE, brought in additional nurse. ESSER two was the second round of that money. And that ESSER two, it has to be used up by the end of this September. And then there's ESSER three, and ESSER three is really focusing on student education recovery.
So if it's not used, it's returned.
Correct.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Go ahead.
So basically, I went out to bid, we found some really good interactive displays, that are really gonna allow, the teachers to just use the display. They won't, necessarily need their computers attached to them anymore. And they come with a 5-year warranty, 50,000 hour lifespan. It'll put us in a good position to kind of stop the issues we're having in the classroom as far as these projectors and the smart boards and the disruptions. I can tell you that when they fail, it's an urgent matter usually to get over there and get those resolved for them.
So what would be the plan so that in 5 years,
Right.
we're not trying to buy 97 again?
So we probably should start putting more money in the trust, asking to put more money in the trust so that we can replace them. Now, I don't believe 97 are gonna fail in 5 years, and I absolutely don't wanna just replace something to replace it, just because it has, it says it's got a 5-year warranty and 50,000 hours, but I certainly think that we're gonna have to be prepared to replace, a third of them, year 6 maybe, year 7, as they start failing, and then we would just rotate through, making sure that we have enough funds in the trust to cover those costs.
Will these interactive displays mirror what they're already using in the classrooms? I mean, will they be comparable to what they already have?
Yes, I think that they'll actually enjoy them more. Some of the features, such as casting, one of the features with this board is the ability to install Android apps, which is a lot of the programs that they're using, Google Classroom, Google Drive, all can natively run on the board. Another feature I really like is the teacher can actually cast what she's doing on the board down to the student's laptop. So if a student's sitting in the back, they can have it on their screen just to see what's going on. Or vice versa, the students can actually cast up to 4 screens up onto the board to make it an interactive experience. So one of the things that comes with this is free unlimited training from the vendor. They have both live training, online live training, as well as a university type training, self-paced, with all of their tools. So hopefully we can get the staff trained on all these features and they can take advantage of them. Installation. I know that was discussed too, how are we gonna install?
So I did, find a local company, Cinema Q out of Guilford, that will do a time and material, type installation. It's significantly less than what the Pro AV companies were offering us. It'll come out to probably right around $100 a board, to install them.
Is that included in this estimate, cost to install?
That is not, no. So installs, we can pay for installs out of funds that we budgeted for, because we do budget for the replacement cycle. So we do have those funds in there.
So I apologize if I missed this, but what's the number that we're planning to replace?
It'll be roughly 101.
And how big are these?
75 inch.
I guess another question I had was, of these ESSER 2 funds, were we just going to give them back? Or did we have other plans? Like, I guess I'm all for technology. I'm all for technology. We should have it in every room, assuming the teachers are using it. But I feel like we're getting out of this by finding these ESSER 2 funds, and we're covering for bad planning. Like, if we didn't have this money, we'd be in, I think, for a world of hurt to do 100 screens at 3 a year, we'd never catch up. So I mean, we have to put more money in the, expendable trust, or ask for that at budget time, we can. But I guess I just wanna make sure we're not missing out on something important as well, because we're doing this project that we didn't plan well for.
So I can tell you that the ESSER 2 funds, I go through the grants periodically and do analysis and reviews. So some of the ESSER 2 funds we had originally put in to hire positions that we never got someone to apply for. So we weren't gonna be able to use those funds for that, nobody applied for the position. We had put in for some of the credit recovery, that was all planned in ESSER 2, and then when they came out with ESSER 3, it's a requirement that we use 20% of the ESSER 3 money for credit recovery. That was not a requirement under ESSER 2, so it actually works out to our benefit to reallocate and actually use the ESSER 3 for the credit recovery. So that freed up the money that I had in there for the summer school, the after-school programs, things like that. And then there had been at one point a Belmont Middle School outdoor classroom that we had tried, that's what we had earmarked the money for, and we could never get it approved. They said it didn't meet the ESSER requirements. So that's how we came up with the money.
Do all these screens need to be replaced right now?
A majority should be replaced, yes. As I mentioned in the last meeting, we have, equipment that's pushing 10 plus years old. Like I said, we've been replacing them as fast as we can, but the equipment's just getting old.
Yeah, because I had a crazy thought, going back to our previous conversation about the tables. What if we used half for technology and took half of that money and put it towards the tables? Then we could get the tables done and we could get half the screens done, and maybe that would.
I don't believe that the tables would qualify under ESSER 2.
I didn't know how it worked.
ESSER 2 has very specific requirements. Technology is one of the things that we can use because it's going to enhance education, particularly if we bring in those apps and we're able to project onto students' Chromebooks. That's different than the cafeteria tables.
I didn't know the spectrum of it, okay.
Yeah.
Will there be an additional charge to dispose of the 101 that we're getting rid of?
I know, we utilize a recycling company that takes it free of charge, and they break it down and recycle the pieces and parts.
Would we be concerned if we replace all of these right now, that they would all fail again at the same time, 5, 6, 7 years down the road? And we'd be in this without ESSER funds?
I don't believe that they'll all fail at the exact same time, but I can only go based upon the manufacturer's specs, and that's 50,000 hours. And like I said, they do come with a 5-year warranty, so I can say we won't replace them in the next 5 years. Again, we will need to put more money in the trust. if that's how we wanna go about setting up this replacement cycle. You know, currently we use the trust to cover, you know, the $100,000 wireless project or the $100,000 server project, so, it either has to go in the budget or the trust.
So did we buy,
Nope, go on.
did we buy some interactive displays last year? So we wouldn't be replacing those.
We'd move those into the library, something like that, so that, and the thought behind that is that all of our teaching staff have the exact same experience, whether they're in classroom A, classroom B, or classroom C. They have that exact same experience with those exact same tools, they're getting the exact same training, and hopefully that leads to, you know, maybe some collaboration as far as, hey, you know, I found this great feature on my board. I'd hate to see, you know, one second grade teacher say, I got this great tool, and the other second grade teacher say, oh, I can't do that because they bought my board 2 years ago.
Yeah, I struggle with how many of those are we talking? Because to me, to take something that we spent at least $2,000 on and to, I mean, maybe the library's gonna use them a lot. I get on one hand, I understand what you're saying in terms of people all having the same thing, but it's a lot of money when we just purchase those.
The libraries do, you know, our elementary and middle school libraries do teach classes in there, so they will get used. So there is a need in there, and they have similar older, you know, projector smart boards as well, so there's a need. The idea behind is we can take those and put those in those conference rooms where you know, they may have a projector, or the library, and we still have them. Then they're also, now they're just hung on the wall, so in the event that a classroom goes down, and we have to ship one back, we have something that two people can just grab, pick it up, we can hang it on the wall, and we can keep that class going at least until the replacement gets in here.
So I had the same question that you did, and just, you know, running, I mean, 6 hours a day for 5 years is 5,400 hours. If they're saying that they're gonna have either an average or a top end life expectancy of 50,000, then obviously it's gonna be significantly longer than 5 years. That being said, I agree with you, Sean. I'm not against technology, but one of the reasons that I ran and I'm here is because I see a lack of direct instruction, and I struggle, and I'm sure other people struggle with the balance between using technology as an instructional device versus direct instruction. And this is coming from used to be a tech ed teacher, so that was a struggle in my own classroom. And I'm seeing it in my own kids, you know, classes where there's still a lack of direct instruction, even though we've all returned to the classroom.
I would like to see the breakdown of like how old each of were you able to look at, like how many we bought last year, how many we bought 2 years before?
So we have, I believe, 9 flat panels.
I don't know what that means.
Or the displays that have been replaced, displays. We've replaced all of the 5th grade, I believe, so 5 at the middle school, plus another one downstairs, so 6. 2 at Canterbury, 8, and we just added 2 that wouldn't be replaced at Belmont Elementary in the new addition. Those are this brand, so, and then there's 1 in 1st grade.
I guess I'm looking for assurances that the ESSER 3 funds will cover everything we want to do academically with credit recovery and all of those improvements.
There's more than enough money. We're not using the 20% now, and that's concerning to me. I have the money, I just need the people to use it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if we move forward with this, we're not cutting ourselves off from an academic standpoint because we don't have enough money in that ESSER 3 curriculum.
That's not the case. We're fully comfortable with what we have for ESSER monies. And what we tend to do is if we need to come up with a solution, particularly financially, we'll go to grant monies first, if possible. And then we would tap into our operating budget and or our trust. So we have an opportunity here to do the replacement cycle based on grant monies that are available. So we're not going to the taxpayer asking for those monies, and we'll adjust the CIP accordingly to make sure that we're budgeting for it for the future.
One last question. You mentioned training. I assume all the teachers are gonna receive training, so that they don't just show up on day one with new technology and don't know how to use it.
It'll be made available for them.
I still would like to see. So overall, I'm in support, but I don't have a handle on how old some things are. And even what you didn't rattle it off. Even what you presented, like the 9 or whatever, like, we don't have 9 libraries, so like, where are these? So I would just like some additional data, so I know where these boards are going. But I'm okay if people wanna move forward. For me, I'm missing a piece, for me.
Or just a plan, like what?
Well, I don't even know if we've had things for 10 years, 6 years, 15 years, I don't know, 15 years ago, we were probably on overhead projector, overhead projectors, yeah, okay. So, transparency, so that's what I would like to see.
I can give you some of that data, a lot of it predates me.
Yeah, you can't give me something.
I don't have that data, but, it's a handful really of short throw projectors that I can identify being purchased when I first started.
I don't mean the projectors, I mean smart.
So they're two different things. So there's a smart board on the wall and then the projector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't we have some, can you talk about, we have 9 panels?
Yeah.
See, herein lies my exact issue, like, I don't know what we have, so you're asking me to approve 101 of something and I don't know, I feel like I don't exactly know where we stand, so that's just why I'm hesitating, mostly because even if we take it from the trust, we have to actually have the voters approve money to move it to the trust. So I'm just struggling with I don't wanna be in this situation in 5 years, and I have to think about a third, so 30 of these at 2, cause you said replace a third of them in 5 years, give or take, right? So that's $60,000, right? 30 at 2,000 a piece. So we've gotta not find that money, but it's gotta be either put in the trust or budgeted for, which
Plus
means
installation, because that's
plus
expensive.
installation. So just understand, that's where I'm coming from, is I'm looking long-term, and I support doing this. My issue is how many. So that's where I'm coming from at this exact point in time.
And then just to confirm, these funds were originally potentially earmarked for something that was more suitable for ESSER 3, so
Or we could not do.
Right.
Right.
Yep. So it's like a use it or lose it.
Yes.
So this is up for action.
Make our motion to proceed with the purchase of new line interactive displays from Connection with a price not to exceed $202,400. Second.
Additional discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm actually opposed. I'm opposed. Motion carries. And let me be clear why I'm opposed. Just so you know, I support the thought. I just would have liked more info. So, thank you.
So, question for Chair, if it's presented to us as far as action on the agenda, is action absolutely needed on, would action be needed on this tonight?
We wouldn't have to move forward with it, we could have chosen to.
Are you asking if it can be tabled?
I believe so.
Correct, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, would,
Yeah.
I mean, would we, I mean, I understand you're calling for action, but do we need to make do we need to make a decision? Steve?
So I said it's up for action, action could also be it was tabled.
Okay, okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I think somebody could just make the motion and say, I'd like to make a motion to table this until the next meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
That could come up.
does that help?
I mean, is that gonna give you the information that you need? I mean,
Oh, we're
I guess
good.
it really doesn't matter, you know.
No,
with one.
it's, and truthfully, I could have made a motion to table it, but because I support it in concept, I didn't have to push it. So, just so you know, I'm pretty vocal, so.
So Mark, just to answer your question, particularly because a motion was made, it was seconded, it was approved.
Right.
You would have to wait particularly to the next meeting to potentially reconsider a motion that was
Correct.
made at the prior meeting.
Right, I should have asked that question prior to,
Yeah.
prior to
So
that.
just,
Yeah,
just
that's
for
okay.
information.
Yep. I was late to the game on that
That's
question.
okay. Michael, you're up.
I have a couple things to report. I was able to attend the first period of the hockey game. It was nice to see everybody. I saw the first goal. Unfortunately, I had to run off because my daughter was competing over at UNH, so I hit both venues that evening. I also had the opportunity to attend the Monster concert, which was fantastic. If any of you haven't had an opportunity to attend that event, that's when we have basically all of our band students across the district get together and perform, and they perform together, which is nice as a culminating song at the end, which was wonderful to see. It was great. We had plenty of community members out there as well, so those are great events if you ever have an opportunity to see the Monster concert. The last update I really have is that I know that we're on the tail end of, in my opinion, the winter season. We're kicking into spring officially. However, there could be some days that we get some inclement weather. However, we are able to plan our end of year dates at this point. I did send that information out to staff as well as to families, just letting them know that if there are any other cancellations between now and the end of the winter season, there would be remote learning days. Therefore, it puts us, as students are getting out, last day for students are June 22nd, and last day for staff is June 23rd, that Friday. So we're able to plan our end of year events at this point, which is nice, and that communication is going out. So it's nice to think about summer around the corner and being able to plan for our end of year events, which we have several of them that occur. Any questions?
Yeah, so can you did you ever have a chance, so way back, Michael had talked about on remote days, possibly working out something with the bus company.
Mhm.
So I'm just following up on
Yes.
that, like, were you able, like, how did that turn out?
I actually had to put that back on the bus company to come up with a creative solution, because their employees are part of a union, and if one district offers something and another does not, there could be concerns on a union perspective. So I asked First Student to get creative on that. We're willing to have that conversation, and haven't heard anything back at that point.
Thank you.
That's all I have for updates. Any other questions?
Any questions for Michael?
Thank you.
Okay, new business, acceptance of the BHS re-roof bid. So there's information in your packet, but I also know Buildings and Grounds.
Yeah, we met and Steve said he put it out to bid and we only had 2 bidders. And you can see that Skyline was significantly higher than Nelson. And the ladders that he has added on here are for safety reasons. Cause I guess before they were just jumping out onto windows, onto the roof to go change filters or taking out ladders through that window to climb up to the next level to change filters, cause there was no access ladder. We originally talked about keeping the ladders off to keep the prices down, but our fear is if we say, okay, we're not doing the ladders, and then we go and put it out a bid, and we don't know what ladders would cost, particularly these kind of ladders. And all of a sudden, we're looking at an additional 50,000 or 60,000 or something, because we don't know the prices. So we're recommending the Nelson Company at 289,500 with the ladder.
And this is a roof that we've been budgeting, we've been planning on.
Yeah.
This is,
And that should have said a 20-year warranty, not a 10.
oh, sorry.
So we budgeted 233,000 for this, and it will cost 289,000?
Well, we were planning on the gymnasium roof, and I forget what that cost, but the academic roof, it's
Yeah, so-
probably had this fall, so this was kind of unexpected.
So we are, I believe, we budgeted less than what this amount was, correct? So we
Yeah.
do have to have a conversation about how we make up that difference. We can do it through the trust, which has money in it, and we were approved to add even more money this March. We could use unexpended funds from June 30th. That's an option. We have options. What we wanna do is get it booked so we can make sure we get it done this summer before school comes back.
And can you remind me, are we doing the gymnasium
We're
roof
doing
and the
all of it.
academic?
We're doing everything.
Okay, that's,
It's a whole brand new roof all the way across the board, so it's all gonna be the same age.
okay. Cause we were slated to just do the gymnasium.
Yeah, we were
and
just
then-
gonna do the gym, cause that was a issue, but then this fall, Steve and the maintenance guys found that the roof was starting to peel up. It wasn't leaking, but it was peeling up.
And this is
So we
all
had-
original, right?
Yes.
Then we had to put a Band-Aid on it
Right.
for $3,500.
Literally, I felt like it
Yeah,
literally
that's
was
basically what it
Band-Aid.
was a Band-Aid. It needs to be done.
So I guess one question I have is, do we have to make a decision on the difference tonight? How we cover that difference?
No.
No.
So you're asking for this now, and then we would put on the agenda at a different meeting how to come up with or not how to come up with, we have money, it's a
Yeah,
matter of
just
where we take it
Which
from.
option you're going to use.
Which option we're going to use to make up the difference.
But we want to award the bid before this price expires, cause it
Correct,
could
right.
go up higher.
Correct.
Was there a guesstimate on how long the repair is expected to last?
I think what'd they give us, Steve? I can't remember. Was it a
The
year?
Band-Aid,
The Band-Aid we put on the roof? It
Band-Aid
was like
was
a
a year.
year, I think.
Okay, alright.
That's all they would warranty it for. So come December, it's gonna be no good.
yeah, we knew this, well, I mean, the two of you didn't know this was coming, we knew this was coming because
Yeah,
of the.
it's been discussed in hearings the last 2
Yes.
years, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
The new piece was the academic, doing it all at once. Okay,
So, make a motion to accept the bid from Lanson Company, for the BHS roof, $289,500.
any additional discussion? This would allow us to book it, right, so to have it.
They said July 3rd is when they could start.
How long will it take? Do you know?
I think it was, I don't know how long
August,
it'll
they
take,
said
I know
they
it was
finished.
spelled out to be by August 15th, I think.
Yep.
Is that what I heard?
Will it disrupt summer school?
No.
Just move them around,
No,
And at the high school, it's such a short period of time.
yeah, true.
I don't know if that means it takes that long. I don't really care when it starts, I care more about,
That it's ready.
Right,
for-
just that it's not disrupting anything.
And a roof this size, I think a safe bet would be, a good solid month, if not dribbling over by every bit of a week. Depending on weather. I mean, I think weather's gonna be the biggest, the biggest question.
All right, any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. The football MOU. Michael?
Yeah, so I can speak to this.
Yes,
As I let all of you know, I'm pleased that the Guilford School Board did approve our request to basically postpone terminating the MOU that we currently are under by 1 year to allow our players to play one more year, all of our players, not just our current juniors for their senior year. So worked with the Guilford superintendent as well as the Guilford board to get that extension for 1 year. And the Guilford school board, school district in general is asking for an updated MOU. And the reason behind that is because they are gonna continue to petition to go down a division after next season, which would be actually, they would be in line with the cycle in order to do so. But the NHIAA is requesting a new MOU stating specifically that this will be the last season, that it's a cooperative football team. So I drafted this MOU and just need a motion to authorize me to sign it. And all of our players will have one more season.
What are the grades of the non-seniors for their next year?
Not sure if we have any incoming freshmen, but I believe we have sophomores, juniors, and seniors that'll be playing next year.
So this will be the last year they will be able to play.
And they were informed last season that this was the last season, so they're gonna be informed again that they have one more season. I'm not sure what our feeder program has coming up at this point.
And that was the state has made that decision?
I'm sorry?
The NHIAA has made that decision?
No, this is, so this is an agreement between, Guilford School District and our school district, as a cooperative football team.
Right.
And the current MOU that they voted to terminate, at the end of this season stated that you had to have a year in advance notice. They gave that to us last year, Guilford School District did. So basically we were out of luck and we had players, particularly 3 juniors, that would not be able to play their senior year next year. So, working with the Friends of Belmont Football and the Guilford Superintendent, we were able to get Guilford School Board to basically change their mind and give us one more year. So it's an agreement between the 2 districts.
And they changed their mind because they petitioned to go down, because right now we play what, Division?
Right. Yep, we play Division 2.
We play Division 2 and they wanna go down to Division 3.
And that necessitates only being a single.
No,
single
it's
team, or-
population, so so they take the combined enrollment of Guilford High School and Belmont High School,
to determine,
which would,
yeah.
to determine, so they wanted to terminate the agreement to move down, and they told them no for this year, cause it's off cycle
It's
and,
off cycle, yeah.
right,
Mhm. So we're happy to say that we'll get one more year in as a cooperative football team, and all of our players will have one more shot at it next fall.
Now, I will just note, we took football out of the budget for next year, so we will have to discuss how because the time we didn't know.
We can do that. And
So-
in conversation with Friends of Belmont Football, they're in good standing financially as well, so.
Okay,
I had 2 questions, well, a couple questions, but the MOU, I can't remember the previous one. Does this differ significantly? Like in what we're putting in numbers 1 through 5?
No, there are specifics in number 1, basically letting them know that the cooperative football team will no longer be in effect. Also, it takes out the clause that you need to, either district can inform either district a year in advance of termination of it, so that clause is out of there, but it's not substantial.
We don't provide transportation, do
No,
we?
that's the same.
And then it says, the parties acknowledge and agree that the co-op must be approved by the NHIA. Have they already approved us, or do they need to approve the co-op for 1 more year? Since it's already a co-op, or, like, I don't know.
They do not, this is a standard clause in there that, the NHI has to approve a cooperative team. So
But is
that's
this
something-
already is this still recognized?
Yes, we're still recognized as a cooperative football team with the NHI.
I just didn't wanna put the cart before the horse if they have, NHIA has to agree to let this happen.
Yeah. We're in good shape.
So the motion would be to, enter,
Authorize
thank you.
me to sign the MOU with Guilford School District.
Make a motion for Michael to sign the paper saying we can do this.
Thank you, Jeff.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Permission to travel to Ottawa.
So the board had already approved the
Yep.
permission to plan for the trip, and now we have the details, and we're looking for the board to approve permission to travel.
Make a motion to approve the permission to travel to Ottawa.
Second.
Just so you all know, Alice and Mark, usually advisors, whoever comes to us, it's been approved by the principal for permission to plan so that they can move forward with all the details, and then there's permission to travel. It's typically
Kind of a two-step process.
two-step process. Sometimes those get combined to one, but, so. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Okay, next up, as I think many of you know, the Canterbury voters, passed the warrant article in which, we are instructed as the school board to, essentially establish the withdrawal study committee. It is not, last year we did have an attorney, our school district attorney came to one of our school board meetings and explained that we as the school board, Shaker Regional, need to basically establish the withdrawal study committee, but it's not a committee of the board. So our responsibility is to appoint a member from the school board from Belmont and a member of the school board from Canterbury to be on the study committee reps. And then the town of Belmont will appoint a select board member, and the town of Canterbury will do a select board member. And then the committee, in the past, they had taken solicited letters of people interested in being on the board, being on the withdrawal study committee. But that ultimately is their decision on how they choose to have members.
So I just wanna get clarification, because that was a question that was raised to me, is we establish, I guess, the committee, or we create the committee, we determine who the board members are, but we're hands off after that, like, we're not looking at applicants that wanna be members of the community to take part. That's up to the two
Yep.
board members and two selectmen, who are the only four that have been
Correct.
established at that point.
Correct.
And that's a state guidance, or
Based off
is
of
that
the
just what we
RSA.
did?
No, so it's not our committee, so it's not the board's committee, so it's when you convene the four, when you put the two together.
Let me rephrase it. Could the board decide, oh, we wanna make that decision?
No, not my understanding of reading
It's not a
the
subcommittee
RSA.
of the board.
It's not a subcommittee of the board.
I'm not interested in this, but I
Would you
wanna
like
make
to
sure
be?
the question is answered for the person that asked me.
So what it was is the committee of the Core Four last year decided that they wanted to solicit community members, which we didn't have to do.
Right.
But we felt that it was important to get their impact, and we decided on 2 from each town. So we went ahead and we asked for letters of interest, and then we reviewed them. And when we reviewed them, we just kind of read each one. People put in why they wanted to do it, why they didn't. And our goal was to look for people that were interested in doing the study, not necessarily indicated that they were for either way.
Sure.
Can you remind me the makeup of that last year's committee? I know Eric and you represented the board, but who was the rest of it?
So Bob Steenson ended up representing the Canterbury Selectmen. Ruth Mooney was the Belmont person. So when we reached out for the members, we received quite a few from Canterbury and only 1 from Belmont. So Tracy Leclerc was our Belmont rep. And then the Core 4 group decided to accept 3 people from Canterbury, which one was Alice Todd, Charlie Krautman, and Rue. So that, because we needed people to do work. Like at that point, it's a huge undertaking.
Right. Did we answer your question?
I think so. One follow-up. Again, I'm not in favor of this, but if the board decided that they wanted this to be a subcommittee of the board, is that possible?
Yeah.
And then the board makes the
That might be a
decision.
legal question,
Yeah,
honestly.
but I don't know, Sean.
Yeah.
That might be an interpretation of the actual RSA that needs to go to a lawyer.
I know that it was made very clear to me by the School Board Association as well as, I believe, our own attorney, that this was not a town committee, this was not a school board committee, this was its own entity. Remember, I said I could do whatever I wanted, I said, can we have a car wash? Like,
Yeah.
So,
And that's, I think why Alice is saying too, it's a legal piece because the RSA is silent in some ways, like it doesn't.
It's open to interpretation.
Correct. So, there is, the Canterbury voters allocated $12,000 to it. That money cannot come into the school district, so it's gonna be something the town will have to, I'm not sure how that's
I'm
gonna
not
work.
even sure if the town is that committee at that point.
The town, however, is the
But-
fiscal agent.
Correct, there has to be a fiscal agent
They
is what
hold
I
the
meant,
purse
so the school district is not the fiscal agent.
Just because it seemed like it was so long ago, even though it was last year, the timeline, when did you have to have like a?
I think it was 60 days. So it was, it's like we had to meet.
Very quickly.
It was, and then we had a whole process. It's 180 days, but there is a November deadline. So regardless of where you start, you have to meet that November deadline.
So do you remember, looking at Michael too, the committee needs to meet, which would be the 4 reps need to meet. It's fairly quick, it's like within the first 30 days.
I believe it's within.
From the vote, which would have been the 17th.
I believe it's a little longer than that. Hold on, let me see. Our first, yeah, I think it was 60.
I think it was sooner than that. Because, I just wanna make sure people know what they're signing up for.
So the commitment last year, we did twice a month. We did Mondays in Canterbury because the selectmen were willing to give us their meeting house for it. The difference between what happened last year and this year is this year there's funding for an educational consultant, which was needed to help navigate through these and to give us guidance on what to do.
Okay, so we need a Canterbury rep, and a Belmont rep. So I guess we had this discussion last time, so I guess Randy, I'm wondering, are you wanting to be the rep again?
So I've already like established relationship with everyone that I need to get info from, and
Yeah.
I have to redo it, so I'm happy to do it as well, again. Invested in now.
Okay, and so Belmont, that would leave Jeff, Sean, Jill,
What's
and
the
Mark.
expected end date for?
So it depends, but I would plan on going right up until November.
Can you do that?
I gotta talk to my wife first on that, just based on the schedule, I mean, between here 2 nights a month, that 2 nights a month, I have one in lacrosse and,
Anybody else have interest?
I mean, I'm not opposed to, I mean, I'm a little, you know, I mean, I don't wanna jump on the board and, you know, start trying to drive boats. That's, my whole intention was to, you know, listen more than anything, out of the starting gate. I have seen and worked within districts that have split from other districts, before, and the end result is, you know, basically always the same, it's just, it costs everybody more money. But I don't know, I can't commit to it this second.
Okay, is anyone else interested? Okay, so the situation we find ourselves in is Mark will hopefully go back and talk to, I was gonna say the boss, but that's stereotypical, so I apologize for that. But if you can check with the household and see if you can make that work.
I can try to ask her enough.
Okay, so the,
If
what,
you can't make it work, one of us three has to do it.
that's what I was gonna say, so what we find ourselves in is,
If I had to do it, I can't guarantee that I make it every Monday that you want, because I
So
work
the
construction,
date
so
is
I
what,
mean,
that date last year is what the Core 4 agreed to, as the best date for them. So it doesn't have to be that same date. One of the reasons we met, bi-weekly is because none of us had any clue what we were doing. So we knew that we needed to have frequent discussions and be there. So the
if
date.
Mark can't do it, I'll do it, but I can't guarantee I'll make it every week.
I just wanna make sure that things come up, family things come up. You can't guarantee to be there, but for Canterbury and for Belmont, I think it's important that whoever commits fully.
Absolutely, and so one of the things that we did is obviously, like, people weren't able to attend everyone, and that's fine, like, I would reach out, get updates, talk to them afterwards, make sure they were aware of anything that happened, but also, as long as our in-person meeting, has, enough people to declare it a meeting, we did allow some people to dial in that weren't able to attend in person, as long as everybody else was present and available for the public to be there. So we're pretty flexible.
and I do believe it's 30 days based on my lookup of this. So,
Oh, I guess one other question, do you have I forget what we did for minutes, no?
so we do need to talk about, so at the time when we, the school board did agree, to have Greta, well, she was willing, I should say. She was willing to do the minutes and we paid her to do that because we thought, I mean, truthfully, we thought we were responsible for, that as a school board committee. So, so regardless of whether it's Greta, cause I won't put her on the spot right now, but regardless of whether it's Greta or somebody else, last year we paid for somebody to take minutes.
So it wasn't just that we thought we were responsible, it's that you didn't wanna put the burden on school board. And it was lovely having Greta. She takes wonderful minutes.
Yes, she does.
So, I'm just gonna ask a question, so who would pay for this position this coming year?
That's the question, like,
Oh.
we would have to decide if the school board paid for it, we could do that. Or the committee has a budget and could
So the
pay for
committee
this
has
well.
to use the budget for the consultants, legal fees, but I would just put in with my letter, like if someone's willing to be our volunteer scribe, that we're looking for that as well, which I'm sure we will come up, because people are always willing to help. Will it be as professional and amazing as Greta's, or in the same format? Probably not, but they will get there.
Because I wondered if you had an opinion, you always do, so.
I don't want the school district to pay for it.
Yeah. I feel the same way, so.
And that's fine, but no complaints about it.
No. I'm the worst note taker ever, so I would never complain about
Not that
something
I'm
else's.
asking for the person to volunteer their time.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I wouldn't let you. I meant like when we put it out for community members, we would put community members and scribe.
Okay, so Mark's gonna get back, to me, and then if not, Jeff. So. Okay, and remember, when you're on this committee, you also are not, I don't believe you're representing Shaker Regional School Board, you are representing yourself, correct? So I wanna be clear on that, so when Randy's there, cause she was there last year, when Eric was there, yes, you are a member, but you're there, like, you don't need the board, we're not directing you.
I never even thought about that.
So you're there as more as a community member.
Well,
There is
you're
a
there,
required person.
you're there as a required person, but we are not,
Representative.
you're not representing the board,
Just your own self-interest, basically.
or your own opinions, or you're a taxpayer.
I never even
you're-
thought about that.
But you have the perspective of the school district as a board member.
Correct.
So as you sit there as a board member on this committee, you bring in the perspective of the school district.
Correct, it's a good way
Or
to,
the board of selectmen, you know,
doing the same
would
thing.
bring in the perspective of the town from that governance side.
Right. So you're looking at it from, you have the experience, or you're entering into the experience from the school board side, and everything else you bring with you, in terms of you or anyone on the committee, in terms of those things.
So on that note, Randy, I'll shoot you the name of the, select board members. Ken Folsom reached out to me, Cheryl Gordon is, Canterbury selectman, is gonna sit on there, and Travis O'Hara from Belmont is gonna sit on it. They're gonna send me their contact information, I'll just forward that to you.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. All right. It's all you.
Like a formal motion, or are we good? It's action.
Oh, it's action. Do we need to vote?
It's more of a consensus, is okay with it?
Okay.
All right, next up is the volunteer list. So you'll notice in your packet, there's always a volunteer list. And if it's yellow, it means we're waiting on background checks. So I just remember my first meeting 5 years ago, I'm like, why is it yellow? Why are some people yellow? So.
And there's a policy there's a policy spelling out why we have volunteers,
Right.
why we approve them.
Yeah, so, and then yellow means we're waiting for background checks, essentially. Okay,
Motion to approve the volunteer list, noting conditionals.
Second.
so that's just what we say, noting conditions, so that once those come through, they will all already have been approved. So, any questions? Okay. All those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. And now we can gaze upon the horizon. I say that every meeting, so fun. So the way On the Horizon works is it's broken out by annual, by month. There's one that's by month, and then there's one that is by board meeting date. So this is where if we would look at, so see committee assignments, that was my reminder. So I have to appoint committees, or assign people to committees. So we have the policy committee, we have buildings and grounds, what other committee? Negotiations, huh? As needed, which we don't have negotiations this year. What else is there for a committee?
It's not a committee, but you're appointed to be like the rep to go to
The School Boards Association, the Delegate Assembly, yep.
Hewitt.
Huh? Hewitt, which never meets, do they?
Yeah, we meet 3 times,
Who's
4
our
times a
school
year.
board rep?
Sean Embry.
Sean,
Yes,
how are those meetings going?
I know about them.
Okay. So I have a list of the different committees, I will send them out to the board. If you let me know if you, which committees you like, those types of things, if you're into policy, if you're into buildings and grounds, you know, and we'll look at committees for next year. So I will do that in between this meeting and April 11th, so we can get those solidified and ready to go.
Michelle,
Yeah.
I'll have Kim send you the current committee
that'd
member
be-
list.
Thank you. I can find it, but it would be easier.
Have her send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Okay, so as looking at April 11th, we only have one meeting in April because of April vacation. So I don't know that we'll have Hewitt and Winnie reports.
Dave Warner likes to wait towards the end of the
Yeah.
school year to give a
So we should
Hewitt and
move
Winnie
those
report.
somewhere else. And then administrator specialist nominations are up tonight, so we can move that as well. Michael, when are you thinking about youth risk behavior survey?
I'm hoping we'll be able to do that in the second meeting in May.
Okay.
Give Melissa some time.
I think it's typically in May, if you look at the annual.
Okay. All right.
I have a question about the May 9th meeting. So it says transportation contract. So what does that entail?
I had the same question.
Is it up?
It's not up, so that would not be on the agenda. We keep it on the horizon because when it is up, we would have that conversation.
When is it?
The last year,
Next year is last year.
so
So
we'll
we will
wanna
be
have
negotiations.
Well,
We'll need a committee.
yeah, we're gonna have to decide what we wanna do. If the board wants to potentially go out to bid, or if you wanna
Oh, right.
renegotiate.
Sorry, I'm like.
But there needs to be, but we should be creating a
Like
committee
we have to
then for that
transport.
this year.
What?
We should have a committee
Oh,
this
yeah,
year.
absolutely.
So as part of that, would bus routes be like reassessed? Or, so one of the pieces of feedback that I get a lot is like, how come we're not, reevaluating our bus routes? There's kids that ride the bus for an hour and a half.
So we go over the bus routes before each school year. I think that's an opportunity where we can say, this isn't working, or this, it does list the start and end time too.
Right.
That's our opportunity, right? I assume they can
Right,
make
and you'll approve
changes
them every
that
year.
way.
So that was the meeting I missed when I was in Las Vegas, so that would have been in August.
Yes.
So
Have to be approved before the
is there
school year.
enough time to reassess from that too?
There is enough time to reassess the bus routes in general. The key piece, and I agree with you, is that is one of the concerns, is the amount of time some of our Canterbury students have to spend on the bus. That potentially comes to either adding another bus, that would be part of a contract negotiation as to what that cost would be, so that you have one bus particularly that would go out and not have to hit all the stops on the way back. And same as hitting all the stops to the final destination of dismissal, so potentially have to talk about maybe adding a bus to shorten that distance, particularly for those Canterbury students that are on the
And that
far
would
end
be
of the
part of
town.
contract.
You would have to negotiate that cost,
that document that you were talking about with the routes, if I remember correctly, it's like 60 pages, it's
Right.
on.
Yeah,
But like
it's-
we have people even in Belmont who are 2 miles from the school and their bus route is, a lot longer than it would have taken to walk the 2 miles. So I think, yeah, it's a lot of paperwork, but there's a lot of information you can get from it.
Any other questions? Now, is this, well, I have a question. We had talked previously about structuring our board work each month to have one working meeting. We work every meeting, but one, business meeting, and then one that would really look at, I'm looking at Michael, but more, student data, academic data, and so that might change how we structure on the horizon. Because we really, as a board, talked, last board meeting and the board meeting before about really focusing on student achievement, student outcomes, academics, data. So just know as we look at, and I know Michael's already done some work on that in terms of trying to organize some things. So it just may change kind of how we shift things, correct?
I have one other question. On the annual one, in March it talks about school board meeting dates and times. Did we already make that decision?
For next year, we have not put that schedule out yet.
Okay.
Are we
Are
supposed
we
to
gonna
do
talk
that
about
tonight?
that?
We will
Like-
at the next meeting.
Because it's not on the agenda.
Right.
We should add it.
Yep.
I think it's worth having a discussion about locations too.
Okay. Anything else?
The May 9th meeting, I will not be able to attend that meeting on the 9th. Don't know if the board wants to reschedule it, but I cannot be there that night.
That specific day a problem, or is
That specific day is a problem.
Are we having this discussion now?
Yes,
I think we
sorry.
can bring it up when we have the date. Just springing it on you now, but
Oh, yeah,
we can talk
okay.
about it in April. I'm just
We can
giving the
talk
board
about
a
it
heads
April
up that I
11th.
can't be there on the 9th.
Okay,
I'm inclined to reschedule.
right,
We can look at our calendars on the 11th.
okay. All right. Okay. Next up is debriefing the overall budget process. We should put things like that at the beginning of the agenda, so I'm pointing that out. Thoughts around the budget process?
We should assign speaking parts out before we dig into the budget so that people know what they need to laser focus on.
Good idea.
What's that?
Because we all have assigned sections to speak on,
Yeah.
if we assign those out prior or at the start of the budget season, we would be able to kind of laser focus on what ours are,
Makes sense.
which I'm sure would prevent a lot of emails to additional questions.
I don't mind that.
Great idea.
I guess I'm curious how it works from how it's working from your perspective. It feels like, for those that are unaware, Michael does a lot of work behind the scenes to come to us with what he believes is a reasonable budget. And then we might try to add money, or we might say, the increase is too much, we need to find ways to cut. And so, there's always this discussion, I feel like we have it every year, whether the board should be, directing him ahead of time with what we're thinking for a budget, or instead have him just come to us with it and then we cut or add as needed. That's what we've been doing.
One of the things I noticed my first budget season with no experience ever on it, was that the schools kind of, if they wanted something different, like they cut themselves in other areas to try and like get ahead of that. So like I appreciated that, because if we went and said, all right, you know, like 1% across the board, like figure out how you wanna do it, like they were creative in their solutioning
Yeah.
to come to the table with what they wanted.
Yeah, and I like that Michael brings us what he believes is, working with the administrators, a reasonable budget. Then I think it's our job to then discuss as a board really where we wanna be.